me to just sort of give a little bit of a summary of my experience with doing the AddressBC implementation. I had the advantage, I guess, over the past 12 months of actually being involved a bit with the testing, so I got to see a little bit of nuts and bolts going on in behind. Our system at District of Sooke, we have an Esri geo database, we have the parcels, we're loading those on a weekly basis. Our addresses are address points, so I didn't have to do a lot of manipulation to fit things in. So what we did in the very first step was do a bulk upload just to get a fresh copy of the data. I'm not sure how the original demo set, how old it was, so I just did a refresh right to shapefile, which just replaced everything, so we've got about 4,000 points. Then there's the review, and that's the nice thing about this tool is that it goes through your data, sends you a summary, and says, oh, by the way, and I did find there were some errors in my own data that I thought I had all nice and polished up. So I went back into the editor, fixed those up, and also brought those errors into my system and got things fixed up there. And there were minor typos, like the types of things that you look at 1,000 times a day and you never see. Next slide, please. When we get into moving into the next steps now, I've got all my data up there. I thought, well, if I do a bulk upload every time, it's always going to be a fresh date. Everything's going to say September 1st, October 1st. I'd rather be able to leave behind a paper trail saying, October I did these 10 addresses, November I did another 50 addresses. And so I thought, let's try the incremental update. And the best way was for me to go into the address editor itself, download my selected addresses of the new subdivision, overlay them on my GIS and the office, do my edits, which in this case an oversimplification is an old address, we got 2 new lots coming in, the yellow address, it's gone, we delete it, we add 2 new, there's my incremental update, repackage it, load it into the system, and 2 minutes later I get a QA report saying accepted, or oops, you got something else going on here, make a couple changes. But it worked out really, really well because now I can reload all my address points in areas that we might be working without having to worry about overwriting the full modified data. So I can now tell people, and actually I think last week I was just talking to one of the utilities saying, have you got access to the AddressBC? They said, almost there. I said, great, because you will see this new subdivision is in there already. And this was, I think, Hydro's looking at energizing some lines, and so it's there. If you have access to the points, you can take the points, feed them into your system, done. So for us, oh my advantage notes are here. So the advantage now is that everybody out there who needs the addresses can actually get a copy for their own system, and I don't have to worry about trying to finagle data back and forth through an FTP site. And in the worst case scenario for myself is if I lose everything out at the office, we lose our servers, we lose our office in worst case, at least I know I've got another copy of this data somewhere. We can hop onto the website, download the parcels, download the address points, and probably within an hour I can have an emergency setup running where we could actually perform in an EOC situation, even if it's not physically at our office location. So it's got that horrible advantage there, I guess you could say, that in a worst case scenario, I've got backup of my data somewhere else in another format.